Hey everybody, this is Jason Grewa, and welcome back to The Fresh Wire. Hope you're having a good day, night, evening, afternoon, tomorrow, wherever you are, whatever you're doing. I appreciate and thank you for tuning in to The Fresh Wire. This is episode 2. I am recording this at 1:11 a.m., August 15th, 2023. I know, pretty late where I am, but it is what it is. So, as always, we cover a little bit of technology, entertainment, and everything in between. And we're going to start off with something I just saw announced, and it's a very strange one. An article saying that Home Depot is now selling their first smart door. And it's got a pretty good price, honestly. Pretty good price. When I say good, I mean it's pretty high. A pretty high price of at least $4,000 that you can order today. No installation included. It's got smart features including motion-activated lighting, a door state sensor so you can see if the door is open or closed, and an emergency backup battery. That's right, your door now can have a battery. You will, however, need to use apparently 3 different apps to control it. The Ring app for video doorbell, the Yale app for the Yale Assure SL door lock, and the M Power PWR app for the door itself. That's lovely. A lot of data you're giving out, but if you're cool spending a few $1,000s for a door without installation, and apparently it says it starts at $4,000, goes north of $7,000 as it comes in a few different styles and colors. Very interesting. Built-in doorbell and a smart lock powered by your home's electronics. So the assumption is this has to be supported for a very long time. Technology comes and goes every few years. It's almost a necessity to upgrade your phone if you want to keep getting like security updates, the latest features. But now take that concept to a door. Now, genuinely, I actually don't know how much an entire door is. I don't think it's $4 to $7 if that's like the whole point of this article I'm reading. $4,000 to $7,000. I mean, for people that want to try it out, it was first showcased at CES last year, 2022. So it's not like out of thin air, but it's still very interesting, to say the least. I do not plan on getting this. I will stick with having a video doorbell and maybe in the future a smart lock. Otherwise, actually, this is interesting. The quote, "The door will last decades, but the tech won't, so it's designed to make upgrades over time. However, presumably," that was quote, "they have to be designed for the door. And there aren't many hardwired smart locks on the market right now." Yeah. So I guess it's meant to be, over time upgradable, but if not, then what's the point? Again, a few $1,000s. It's an all-in-one solution, admittedly, but it's very... If you're part of the audience that's anticipating this, then have at it. Otherwise, we'll move on to the next one. Netflix, now streaming video games. They just recently started a cloud streaming test for some Netflix subscribers in the UK and Canada. Select TVs, connected devices, and on the web at Netflix.com, you can now try it out. A limited beta test, according to the Netflix VP of Games, and only a small number of members will be able to try it out at the moment. It builds off of their mobile gaming offerings that they gave for a free perk to subscribers back in November 2021. The titles up till and now, I guess, have only been available on iOS and Android. So this will open it up to a lot more people. Recently, from what I saw, there is now an app that turns your phone into a controller so you can stream these games onto your phone. The thumbnail I'm seeing here is an example of a game where you connect your phone to play and streams. Some devices that are supported include the Chromecast with Google TV. I don't see an addition to that, so I'm going to assume it's the 4K and HD ones. I would hope so. Amazon Fire TV, LG TVs, the Walmart On, interesting to point that out. But it's a lot of different TV models. So I anticipate that there will be a lot of support for this. Whether or not it's any good, I do not live in the UK nor Canada, so I can't tell myself. It seems like it's only 2 games available as of right now. Oxenfree, which I've heard is pretty well loved, is one of the 2. The other one is a new title, Molehue's Mining Adventure, which the VP of Games describes as a gem mining arcade game. Interesting. If they're games that work well on larger screens like a TV, then okay, I'll be interested to see how it plays out, assuming it's again to all subscribers. I mean, beats raising the prices, but you never know. So when this does release in the US, and if I am to be picked, I will definitely try this out. I'm not really too into mobile gaming, but I will check it out because I think some of the games they offer are actually pretty well received, pretty well rated. So I'll definitely be checking that out, at least for a little bit, if it makes it out of beta testing. Although I'm certain if they're going all the way to start this test, I think it's got a good chance. Next one. You can now get food delivered to your gate at some of the biggest U.S. airports. This one caught me off guard. I've actually never been on a plane. I will say that out loud, so I'm not entirely connected with this one, but it is something that's pretty interesting. I never really thought of it. Food delivery, very, very popular services. Well, I guess I never really had the connection that it was between an airport and food delivery, that it's going to be complicated. So options for ordering food for delivery to your gate, thanks to an airport food management company, OTG. Travelers can scan QR codes at venues, select the food they want, and pay on their device. So it's not like you're not using an app. It says it's similar to Grubhub, Postmates, but it's just going to be QR codes connecting users to ordering pages. It seems simple enough. It could be a good option for some people if they want food delivered for whatever reason while they're maybe waiting for their plane. But they currently manage food offerings at 350 venues, OTG specifically, and 23 terminals at airports, including JFK, Charlotte O'Hare, LaGuardia. So one airport, it'll start next month, and November, next month specifically means September. And by November, it'll go to more airports. That's pretty cool. Pretty cool to have that there. I just wanted to throw that in a little bit as like technology. I don't know, maybe a little bit of futurology, just a little early, just a taste. Because that's pretty cool, and it's certain to continue moving throughout because 350 venues, it's going to keep going through, especially if it's more convenient for everyone. What's not convenient for everyone is YouTube and ad blockers. YouTube continuing to push a pop-up to anti-adblocking, including what I've seen is a countdown clock, reportedly between 30 to 60 seconds, in the top right-hand corner of the message. The notification that I have yet to receive is that they detect that you're using an ad blocker, that they're not allowed, and that you can go ad-free with YouTube Premium, or you get an option to allow YouTube ads. In a statement, a spokesperson for Google has said that ad blocker detection is not new, and other publishers regularly ask viewers to disable ad blockers. We take disabling playback very seriously, and will only disable playback if viewers ignore repeated requests to allow ads on YouTube. Ad blockers violate the YouTube's terms of service and makes it easier for them to allow ads on YouTube or try YouTube Premium. And by try, if you've already tried it, it won't be a try, it's start paying up, which is $13.99 a month in the U.S. If you're in a different country, it may be more expensive or cheaper depending on your currency. So I have yet to receive this, but it does look like it's here to stay. No matter the controversy surrounding it, it's probably going to continue popping up. And I've seen it pop up more often on different sites. If you have an ad blocker on, it'll tell you you can't look at the content until you turn off your ad blocker or allow ads on our website. And then you do that, and then ads completely take over the site, and you're unable to read what you wanted to open the site for in the first place. YouTube has a lot of advertisements, admittedly. So it's It's no surprise that YouTube wants to push this forward so more people have to either go through ads or have YouTube Premium. Overall, understandably, this is, in my opinion, anti-consumer, but it's only anti-consumer because it's going to enforce advertisements onto more people, or for people to pay the $13.99 if they're in the U.S., or more if they want a family plan. If it's a whole family getting affected, why not get the family plan that costs a bit more? So I do anticipate that's going to continue to pop up. And if it happens to me, I will mention it in whatever podcast episode is associated. So there's that. In my first episode, I mentioned that the Emmys were reportedly going to be postponed because of vendors saying it's not happening anytime soon. And the day after, or really hours after I published the podcast, it was confirmed the Emmys has been pushed to January 2024 on Martin Luther King Jr. Day. That is very interesting for understandable reasons, putting it around, I think, numerous other Hollywood or big budget awards ceremonies. Usually the Emmys was pretty far away from them by a few months, but it looks like while it was pushed back in a press release, it's still planning to be broadcast live coast to coast, and it's probably not going to be. It's possible it'll be affected if this writer strike or strike in general continues for that much longer. If so, it's going to be pretty rough. Historically, it's aired in September, but I think from last time I talked about this, the last time they delayed it was because of 9/11. So they delayed it once, and then military action, so it was delayed again into just a smaller venue. So that's the last time this was delayed as far as I know. So now it's going to be at 8 p.m. Monday, January 15th, 2024. 8 p.m. EST, 5 p.m. Pacific time. That's pretty interesting. If the writer's strike goes to that far, I will not be watching. But if the writer's strike or actor's strike or any strike continue to this point, we're going to feel a very big change for television, for movies, anything that's not indie or has not made an agreement. It's going to be very, very big. A lot of changes are going to happen. But at the end of the day, the writers, actors, everyone, they need to get their fair share. So I support the strikes. I hope they get what they want. From another article I saw, they have restarted negotiations with studios, the Writers Guild specifically, a few days ago, and will respond to their latest offer. This article's a little old, but I'm thinking it's this week. So, it's passed over 100 days. It's the fourth longest in their Writers Guild history. The longest in 1988. 1988 was 153 days. So hopefully it ends soon in a way that benefits the people actually making the content. Speaking of the box office, Barbie continues to take over for the fourth weekend in a row as the last voyage of the Demeter. I'm certain I said that wrong. I will not say that title again. Flopping. I think this was its opening weekend. Fifth place finish. So Barbie, first place. Oppenheimer, second place, 18.8 million. They continue to dominate the summer in terms of blockbusters, in terms of films. It's a pretty big deal. I mean, the TMNT Mutant Mayhem taking third place, 15.7 million. That's a pretty good accomplishment. I hope it continues to make more money. I've heard it's a very, very good animated film. Maybe not across Spider-Verse level. I think that's going to be taking the cake for this year in terms of animated films, unless Wish is just genuinely groundbreaking, which, as an opinion, I don't see that happening compared to Across the Spider-Verse. I absolutely adored that film. It is now available on digital, so you should definitely check it out, maybe soon on Blu-ray. 4K Blu-ray, DVD maybe. I actually don't know about DVD. Do people still buy DVDs? Let me know. I respect it. But man, woman, everyone else, that's a very old format, late 90s. Pretty impressive though, if people still are buying that. A little bit of time for the Apple segment. We're going to be covering a few latest topics on Apple stuff. You know it, you love it. Assuming you have iOS, iPadOS, visionOS next year, and macOS. Here's a few Apple topics that I found for technology. iPhone 14 and 14 Pro owners complaining that their battery capacity is already degrading less than a year after buying it. I mean, the iPhone 14 models were announced, I think, in September last year, so no one has it for a year or more. They're saying already down to 90% of original capacity, which is what this article says, a much faster drop-off than previous iPhones this person had owned. That's a big problem. I do like that iPhones can see. You can see what your battery capacity is at. I don't know. I think you can with Androids as well, but it's not as integrated into like settings. Maybe it is. I've never seen it in my Galaxy S22 Ultra. It's more expensive to replace the battery once it's out of its 1-year warranty, unless you have Apple Care or some other extended service plan. The price went up by $30 last year on earlier devices. You can always go the DIY route. Again, I would like the battery health monitor to be something that's in like Android, maybe like standardized. And it's funny that this is from the heels of a few years ago, Batterygate. Apple saying that they were trying to protect iPhones from aging batteries, which dramatically affected battery life. I remember this a while back. It was like a big conspiracy, and then Apple said, actually, in their, leading to large settlements. So that's one thing. Not great. What's also not great, for nostalgic people, Apple winding down its classic, nostalgic. I mean, maybe it's not old enough that I remember it on my second-gen iPod Touch, but it's the iTunes movie trailers app closing down, at least soon. This screenshot showing that if you want iTunes movie trailers, it's going to be in the Apple TV app. More than a decade old. You're able to see film trailers, previews, and movie theater showtimes, but it's going to change. Starting on August 9th, Mac Rumors saw that there was now a banner on the top of the aging app, the one I mentioned. If you're looking for trailers, the movie and TV trailer section in the Apple TV app still has it, a bit hidden, but I mean, if they're going to say this app is the new home, then it'd be pretty messed up if it didn't. And they'd lie, and that is false advertising. But that's not the case. Originally launched in 2011, it stemmed from Apple's Y2K era QuickTime movie trailers website. That I remember as a kid. They were pretty far ahead in terms of high-quality videos being loaded from websites. I remember that. I definitely remember that. The QuickTime movie trailers website. QuickTime, man. That to me is deeply nostalgic. So that's pretty unfortunate. To me, that's nostalgic. 2011 was around the time I remember using the second gen iPod Touch. I do have an iPod Touch now. It's a 7th gen. I think it's 7th or 8th. The last one that they made. Got it in 2019. Pretty cool. It's been discontinued. Haven't used it in a long time. Got it as a birthday gift for jailbreaking. Unofficially. If that's against the law, then I did not do it for jailbreaking. I did it for FaceTime, which is now irrelevant. I did it for iMessage, which is not entirely true anymore. It was when I got it. Anyway, so this is a bummer, I can imagine. Apparently the website also has it, and it's so old, it retains, this site says, a blast from the past circa 2009 Apple web design. From what I've seen, They are completely correct. And I actually remember how it looks like this. It does have newer films, which is pretty cool. Some strange ones. These look like indie films. I mean, they're just films I don't really recognize, but in theaters, yeah, it's something people will certainly miss once it officially shuts down. Finally, last Apple thing I'll be covering is something a little more personal, location-wise. Apple TV Plus getting a new series about Lionel Messi in Miami. Messi the GOAT. When he moved to Inter Miami in the Major League Soccer sport, things immediately exploded. Ticket prices went through the roof. Apple saying their season pass viewership has improved just 2 games into Messi's new venture. I don't think he's actually played a match in the MLS season itself. They've been in a Leagues Cup, and they've been dominating, understandably. Inter Miami, from what I saw, was very low. It's currently very low in the conference, Eastern Conference, I think, for MLS, because I guess they just didn't really have many good players, and their team is a bit newer than most of them. You can make a bunch of excuses. Once the season kicks back in with Messi, things are going to change very quickly. This is actually the second Messi series slated for Apple TV+. The first, tracking his exploits in, I don't want to say it wrong, but I don't remember how to correctly say the country. It's the one that held the 2022 FIFA World Cup where Argentina won. They won the whole thing with Messi. Qatar. I know some say Qatar, but I actually don't remember how to properly say it. Neither has a title or release date. So it's probably going to be a while. They say it's a 6-part series of, quote, the first and only behind-the-scenes account of Messi's new chapter. True. But yeah, I mean, Messi's been everywhere in promoting, whether it's getting the MLS season pass through T-Mobile, which is what I did. Thank you, T-Mobile. Not sponsored. Or people with Apple products that see Apple TV Plus and go, oh, or MLS season pass with Messi the GOAT. I live in South Florida, so Inter Miami is more of a big deal to me than other people that may not know Messi or Inter Miami. I didn't really care too much about Inter Miami because they haven't been playing well before Messi, so post Messi now, things have changed dramatically. I think he scored like 8 goals in the first 4 or 5 games of the Leagues Cup, and they continue to proceed. I'm excited. Thank you to the fact that I have MLS Season Pass. I will continue to having it on if I'm at work in the background. If I'm not at work, maybe on a larger screen. Now, on to something interesting that is a bit unfortunate for people that don't like X or Twitter or whatever it's called. Threads app usage, according to this site on a similar web blog, they determined that app usage for Threads is down after a month, 79%. In the U.S., time spent is down 85%. Admittedly, I will say, Threads, I used a lot in its first few days, and I definitely have gone down, but it's not that I went to X, formerly Twitter. It's that I just don't look at social media as much. Or I just stick with Instagram. I look at a lot of Instagram. I don't really look at Reddit much anymore. Now that the app I used, Reddit is fun, or Riff is fun, was shut down. So I don't use that much anymore. User count boomed, then dropped fast. And it looks like the daily active users for Twitter/X stabilized, while Threads got close with 50 million on one day. 50 million active users. This is Android specifically. And then it has dropped off to, looks like, in between 12 million, 500,000, while Twitter/X continues to be consistently above 100 million. It actually doesn't look like they even went down at all when Threads released. People weren't immediately leaving Threads, it seems, at least not a lot. But that is, again, Android worldwide specifically. And then for daily usage in minutes for U.S. users I mixed that up. For Android users in the U.S., Threads got close, a little over 20 minutes, while X/Twitter is around 25, and then it just, again, dropped off Now it's like 3 minutes. Understandably, a lot of features that Threads needs. It still doesn't feel like as much of an unfinished app as it did when it launched, but it's still not great. It still feels like it's missing a lot of what a fully functioning essential social media app should have. I'm starting to see some suggested for you users. Some people say they don't want stuff like trends to happen with Threads. I anticipate that they still will. Maybe, hopefully, in a capacity that's not as toxic as X/Twitter is. The conclusion is interesting. Threads may still have a better chance of becoming the new Twitter than some other alternatives, but it needs to provide its users with more reasons to keep coming back. And that's exactly true. You can't really get the news that's up to date, sometimes, which for X/Twitter you could, but it's overall. I hope they continue to add to it. I know about the whole Musk v. Mark fight that may or may not be happening. It's looking less likely to happen now, but I'm down to seeing it. Not hopefully for free. If not free, then I will not be seeing it. It sounds stupid, ridiculous, and probably funny in all the wrong ways, which is why I am excited to see it. It doesn't look like it's going to happen thanks to Elon. Darn. But these two multi-billionaires that a lot of people hate for a lot of good reasons, I would like to see the two go hand in hand. I think it'll be fun, only because of how stupid it would be. Speaking of huge, Microsoft shutting down the Cortana app on Windows 11. This, for some people, is actually probably a big deal. If you have the Cortana app on Windows 11, a new update is now rolling out that disables it. You can no longer use it. Now, if you open it up, it says Cortana in Windows as a standalone app is deprecated, with a Learn More button that I assume takes you to a support article. Actually, the article's right here. It just explains, Cortana is shutting down in some areas. Teams Mobile, Teams Display, and Teams Rooms, it will shut down this fall. Cortana and Outlook Mobile will continue to be available. I think it's more functionally useful there. I think it can even read out your emails or highlight them, which is a pretty cool way. And then they say, oh, but don't worry, if you're on Windows 11 where Cortana was a standalone app, Windows 10, it was very deeply integrated. I'm not sure. I'll look to see if it's super affected. Voice access in Windows 11. Okay, the new Bing, Microsoft, and actually Copilot, Microsoft 365 and Windows Copilot. A lot of AI stuff. The Bing AI chatbot. It pretty much is almost like the new Bing, except it's not integrated with your phone. Really, it's a search engine. But Copilot looks like combine both in a way that should be pretty interesting. Bing Chat and first and third-party plugins. It looks like it's going to combine a lot of things that made Cortana a voice assistant, a digital assistant, and Bing AI's chat in a way that I think will be very, very interesting to look at in the coming months. As Mac OS obviously has Siri, and I think I've heard Apple is looking into integrating AI in some aspects, but if we see anything, it'll be next year at the earliest, and they're kind of very internal with it at the moment. I think one article said they're not even sure what they're doing with it, from what I remember. Windows Copilot is expected to be available this fall as part of a Windows 11 update that will also include native RAR and 7-zip support. That'll be interesting to the 7-zip open source program, if it's going to continue getting installed on Windows 11 computers for maybe the UI. I don't know. Native RAR support. Darn, RIP WinRAR, although they'll continue to be around because of the few people that actually support the program rather than just keep using it for free. So there's that. Let's kick things out with a little futurology. Some good, some bad. Actually looks like it's mostly bad. I apologize. Global heating likely to hit, this is an article in The Guardian, global heating likely to hit world food supply before 1.5 degrees Celsius, says a United Nations expert. Here's a quote. Everyone is fixated on 1.5 C above pre-industrial levels, and it's a very important target, but actually some very bad things could happen in terms of soil degradation, water scarcity, and desertification way before 1.5 degrees Celsius. It's a pretty important global warming, climate change target. But as we get to that point, as it's looking more and more likely, the world could face major disruption to food supplies. The person called on private sector investors to get involved and take advantage of opportunities for turning a profit, agriculture, better use of soil. It does look like it's going to be a pretty big problem that, again, we very well might face in a few years. And it's a little scary, needing to cut greenhouse gas emissions, improve food security, preserve biodiversity. Is this going to happen? Will governments and countries across the world unite to do something like this? It says here they signed a treaty pledging to combat desertification in 1992. So hopefully they unite like that in one way or another, because we're going to be on this planet for a lot longer. And let's maybe not leave it dying and in horrible conditions for our children or grandchildren or, ourselves. Bots are now better at beating the "Are you a robot?" tests than people. So the famous CAPTCHA tests designed to keep robots out of websites, trying to brute force sign-ins. Well, the cat and mouse game for almost 2 decades as developers make bots to try to get around CAPTCHAs. They introduce images. Well, it's not looking good. Bots nowadays, thanks to AI use, has significantly improved image detection, generating images, being faster. So I guess this was bound to happen, admittedly. The article in New Scientist, definitely a big problem. I'm not sure how they're going to resolve it, because AI is rapidly developing at scary rates, and we're probably going to need something better than CAPTCHA or reCAPTCHA or whatever. Not sure how that'll go, but someone will figure it out. I'm certain of it. It's a pretty big deal. Scientists find 9 kinds of microplastics in human hearts. The largest measured 469 micrometers in diameter. That's pretty scary. The annual human microplastic consumption ranges between 39,000 and 52,000 particles. I'd say futurology concepts on this because it's looking into the future and how we're able to continue searching through ourselves, our organs, depending on age and sex. The 39,000 to 52,000. Discernible quantities of microplastics between 1 to 5 micrometers making their way into our bloodstream, brain, and food. And they're now in heart tissues as well, according to a pilot study. According to the American Chemical Society, they analyzed heart tissues of 15 people before and after heart surgery. And they collected blood samples. 9 types were detected in blood samples, both pre- and post-operative. The maximum diameter in this case was 184 micrometers. They showed the distribution showed a change in size after the surgical procedure. This is tough. 1 truck full of plastic garbage is dumped into the ocean every minute. Well, okay. So we're not universally present. So microplastics were not universally present. And further research is needed to examine the potential effects of microplastics in internal organs on human health, noted the researchers in the study. That's scary. I'm glad we know that. I hope there is more of an effort to make sure these sort of microplastics don't make it into our foods, don't make it into where we may digest them and where they may damage us in the long term, even long term, possibly short term. How long has this been a problem? We don't know. Or maybe we do know, but it's overall worrying, understandably. Approximately 14 million tons of microplastics sit on the ocean floor, numbers increasing, even though efforts are being made to reduce global plastic consumption. Hopefully the efforts continue and that 14 million tons eventually gets lowered. Last thing I wanted to cover, and no, I have not seen Barbie yet. I still plan to, but it might be possible that I wait just a little bit longer for whatever reason, and I might not end up seeing it in theaters. But again, not sure yet. This is an interesting editorial article I saw on The Verge. The video call revolution is dead. All we actually got was slightly better video chat, and this made me feel a little personal. So I wanted to talk about it a little bit. Not entirely the content in the article, but more so my take on that, because it's actually a pretty big one. As we all know, 2020, COVID-19, the whole pandemic, a lot of us went online. If we could go online, we probably went online, whether it's Zoom, Messenger Rooms, Teams, Google Meet, House Party. This is Marco Polo. Hop in. Okay, that's a funny name. Blue Jeans as well, which I think I've heard has shut down. Verizon invested $400 million into it. Zoom became a huge thing, as we all know. Now, not as much. So it is pretty interesting that when COVID hit, a lot of corporations were saying Zoom is video conferencing is the next big thing. It's going to take over. Suddenly people won't have to go back to work because we're going to come out of the pandemic, completely change people. Some of us did, especially for the people that went through COVID more than once, myself included. And video conferencing in the following year or two, big deal. But this article mentions what happened now. It's 2023, mid-2023. We're nearing the end of the summer. COVID-19 shut down most of the U.S. 3.5 years ago. Zoom is still pretty important, but from what I've read, they recently actually ordered a lot of their employees to come back to their offices. Pretty impressive that they stuck it out this long, but it's just an ironic thing. So, Zoom, they tried to branch out into a lot of different ways, but they couldn't. They did a lot of different things that ended up not being, I guess, super successful because their main focuses ended up not being built up too much. This article saying Zoom calls themselves still feel remarkably similar to how they did early on in the pandemic, even with added features like facial effects, avatars, and AI summaries. I haven't used Zoom in a very long time. I think the last time I used it was for a job interview about a year ago. Wow, I think it was a year ago. Or close to a year ago. Genuinely a year ago. And I don't think I've used it since. Except maybe for something that is NDA'd. Actually, no. Google Meet. I used Google Meet for another thing that I'm not allowed to talk about. But Zoom, I haven't used in forever. I haven't used Teams. I don't remember a time where I genuinely used Teams. Even though it's integrated into Windows 11, I just left it there in my taskbar until I eventually found out, I can just remove the icon. I think I found that early on. I used the dev version of Windows 11 when it launched. Now I'm on the beta with pretty prominent issues. I just had a pop up a green screen of death saying inaccessible boot device. I got it resolved, luckily, and that's how I'm doing the podcast now. Worst case, my laptop doesn't run on any Insider, so. Google Meet has come the farthest. It says, wisely, Google rebranded from Hangouts Meet, RIP Hangouts. Used it a bunch back in high school. That was my go-to platform for messaging. I didn't really get into WhatsApp or Snapchat until I started college in 2018. So, RIP Hangouts, fantastic platform that I sincerely miss. Google, it could have been the iMessage competitor to beat. Unfortunately, Google themselves got in the way. Google addressing obvious missing features, improving the app's ability. Google Meet has definitely, when I used it, it was pretty good. I can't explain why, but it was pretty reliable, efficient, and so that's Google Meet. I think they renamed Duo Duo is the video chatting app that Android users mainly use rather than the equivalent FaceTime, although I think FaceTime is now usable on Windows and Android, but it's through a website, so not as reliable. And of course, Google Duo, now Meet, as far as I know, is also on Apple and iOS devices, so it's overall cross-platform. It's not as split as Google Messages is, which I talked about in the first episode, that the RCS messages are now encrypted by default. I think they're on by default from what I read, and pretty cool. But until iPhone supports RCS messages, it's still going to be very fragmented. And I would just recommend using a platform that the most amount of your friends, family, everyone in between use. I almost said WhatsApp. That's the main one I use, but it is owned by Meta. It is encrypted end to end, but it is owned by Meta, so I can understand why people end up going to Signal, Telegram, and maybe Google Messages. Maybe you're okay with SMS with iPhone users. Just not the videos. Teams, though, it says, Microsoft continues to invest. As Teams is integrated into Windows 11, you would hope so. Although it's ironic that they have Skype. I haven't really seen a lot from Skype. I haven't used Skype in a very long time. It must have been like middle school, early high school. I stopped using it. And I stuck with Hangouts. I think I used Hangouts for video calls. I used it for a lot of things. I really tried. I was... if Google was looking for that test user using any of their services, I'm definitely up there. Maybe not anymore or as anywhere near as much, but I was up there. Discord even tried it with video calls. Everyone was getting into video calls, but unfortunately, with people returning to their offices, whether voluntarily or by force, X was a big one. X/Twitter. Elon Musk immediately saying, "Nope. You got to come back in to a degree." And, a lot of them, it's how this ended up being is the last sentence is pretty good. The last statement. Video was supposed to be the future. Instead, it's just another way to pick up the phone. It really was. Some of the ambition that I was seeing, 2020, 2021 even, video calls, immersive experiences with VR, that was a future some people were thinking was going to happen, where everything was just going to be integrated into a virtual reality of sorts. Immersive video calls, chatting, and then it got a little crazier with NFTs, non-fungible tokens, Web3, cryptocurrencies. Disclosure, I do own an amount of Bitcoin. Not a lot. I just want to put that as disclosure. And it all kind of faded because scams were getting through, pump and dumps, NFTs looked not good. It overall, a collapse. Is once COVID is still a big problem. I have to be clear on that. And I also have to mention that I used to be very, very cautious with COVID. I know I got it twice. I am up to date with my vaccines. I just wanted to mention that because I'm mentioning all of this now, and I have to mention a lot of people are pushing this because of COVID. It seemed like a good reason. Now, the pandemic, we're not really in a pandemic anymore, but COVID is still a problem. I'm starting to see spikes in people. Some people I know, I think, may have gotten COVID or at least sick. I hope it's not inevitable that I get it a third time. But I want to mention that I was on board with thinking video chat and video conferencing was the future, where meetings were going to be almost entirely through video calls. It's just easier to bring together people without flying people from different areas, from across the country or world even. You just do it in the comfort of your workspace or home through Zoom, Teams, Meet, Discord, but that didn't happen. Instead, it's an option, and definitely did change how some work conferencing has gone, but it's not in a way that was meant to revolutionize the whole idea of video chatting. Pretty unfortunate. It's because I can't even say it's really like an option, like a second, like workforce, back to offices, or video conferencing or video chatting. Because once 2021 was ending, it seemed like eventually corporations were probably thinking, okay, you know what? Never mind. Once the pandemic officially ends, we're bringing everyone back in. And they just waited it out. Improvements weren't really common. Then AI kicked in, and then the pandemic, I guess, health emergency in the U.S. expired in May. And corporations just said, all right, come back in. You could even do hybrid if you want, 3 days a week maybe in person. If not, you're going to be fired or quit or laid off. And then there were, of course, the corporations that were just like, what's video chatting? And then never actually changed anything. Those people probably got a lot of, hopefully not a lot of sickness, but a lot of places did close down early to mid 2020. I should know. I actually was laid off from my job when COVID hit, and I never got it back. Although, also admittedly, it was a Taco Bell on my college campus, and it did not reopen for 2 years. A lot of places were also closed. I don't know if any were closed for as long as that one, though, on campus. Maybe one other place. It was like the second to last food place that did not reopen yet. But, again, I don't think this is ever going to happen now. This actually, a little comforting. The future of video chat apps isn't all bleak. Apple has a few interesting ideas with Mac OS Sonoma, which I think is releasing later this year. You can make your face appear in a little movable bubble. That's pretty cute. Make yourself larger so the focus is more on you. That seems innovative, even though it's not really, just more integrated. Make gestures to set off animated reactions. Sounds like things that should have already been worked on a while back, but, you know, webcams that are built into laptops are pretty horrible. Personal experience. I was very glad to have gotten a webcam back in 2018, the Logitech C920, I think it was, where it was like $45, $50 when I got it in 2018, and then went to like $150 or $200, something crazy, when it was like summer 2020. Got very lucky getting that just for live streaming, really, but then it became very beneficial. But yeah, it's I just wanted to mention that because I saw this article pop up on The Verge, and I actually wanted to give my take on it because as someone that went through college during 2020, going from all in-person classes with maybe one online class, not remote, but online, to everything being remote for the following year, and everything being optionally in person, and some things being optionally in person, that I was just like, okay, you know what? It's been a year. Let me go for it. I didn't get COVID through any of that. I'll say that. It took almost 2 years for unrelated reasons. But there's that. I would like video chatting to become more of a thing that people do because it's pretty cool, you know, to chat with people. I mean, you know, work-wise, with the job I have, it doesn't really make sense. But, you know, jobs should be pushing that forward, and I don't see that happening. So, a little unfortunate. Maybe if VR kicks up a little bit more, maybe tunes will change, depending on what's the cheapest for corporations to do, in my humbly legal opinion. And that is that. Everyone, a lot of news, a lot of big things, a pretty big opinion for me to give. And that'll be it for me. I'm just making sure I'm not missing anything else to cover. I guess I'll put a tiny little thing here because 3D Mark I used to use a lot years ago. Apparently, they now have a new ray tracing benchmark that can test Windows and Android gaming machines. Android, interesting, because I think ray tracing is set to start kicking up for smartphones if they haven't already. A lot of this technology eventually has to make it down the pipeline from desktop to laptop, pretty quickly laptop, but then to smartphones or VR headsets. Ray tracing is a big deal. The DLSS technology that NVIDIA has is also a big deal. Turning pixels into, and from nothing into something, pretty impressive. Saying it in a way that's not super techy. Funny enough, video cards gave a test of a PC with an NVIDIA 4090 GPU, one of the best GPUs you can get, extremely expensive though, and Samsung's Galaxy S23 Ultra smartphone. The desktop GPU scored 24.5 times. You know what though? For a smartphone as thin as the S23 Ultra compared to something as huge as an NVIDIA 4090 GPU with a bunch of tech also in there, that's expected in multiple ways. But yeah, That'll do it for me. Thank you all for listening in, tuning in. This has been, looks like, a larger podcast than I did episode 1, so it'll be interesting to see what you guys think about it. Guys, girls, everyone in between. And let me know if there's anything specific you want to cover. I think there's now voice message functionality, which is pretty interesting. So if you want to have anything covered, maybe you could say it through something like that. But otherwise, that'll do it. Thank you all for tuning in, and I will catch you around in the next one. I plan to do these every Monday night. Things got a little hooked up. That's why I'm recording it so late, so I'm going to consider this a Tuesday episode. Very early Tuesday morning episode. But thank you all. Appreciate it deeply. And I will see you in the next one. Until then, take care of yourselves and have a dang good one. Peace.